This is the AHSAA Weekly, your inside look at everything happening with the Alabama High School Athletic Association. Presented by America's First Federal Credit Union. I'm John Holder. Coming up on this week's program, we're going to talk high school wrestling, the state wrestling championships coming up this weekend, and we will speak with the head wrestling coach at Moody High School, Coach Matthew Reese, and one of the all-time great wrestlers in state history, one of his wrestlers at Moody High School, Corey Lynden. Also coming up this week, we will speak with the head basketball coach on the girls' side of things at Lynden High School in Class 1A, Coach Cordarren Wilson. And we are going to talk soccer this week as we will speak with the head girls soccer coach at Guntersville High School, Coach Mike Jones. Also coming up this week, David Holsford's highlights, plenty of wrestling highlights, and a basketball highlight as well, as we'll have all of that and more coming up on this week's edition of the AHSAA Weekly, presented by America's First Federal Credit Union.
Every bank has their own app, but it's just that, theirs, not yours. At AmFirst, our app was made for you. So it's easy to pay bills, deposit checks, or transfer money to friends and family from anywhere. It's even customizable, which means you can personalize your dashboard, create usage alerts, and redeem points for rewards you'll love. And you can do it all on your own time. So what are you waiting for? Get the app made for you at AmFirst.
What's your favorite high school sports memory? A late inning rally? A game-winning shot? A photo finish? Maybe it's a pep rally or a pregame ritual. Maybe it's the euphoria of a late-night bus ride home after a hard-fought win. Maybe it's having pizza with teammates after the game. Now, imagine if it never happened at all. School sports need your help. With budgets getting tighter, it's more than the games that are on the line. It's all the traditions, the community pride, the culture of your hometown high school, plus all those memories that are on the line too. What can you do? It's simple. Buy a ticket when you can. Go to a game. Take the whole family. Let's do everything we can to keep those cherished school sports memories alive.
This message presented by the Alabama High School Athletic Association and the Alabama High School Athletic Directors and Coaches Association.
We are back on the AHSAA Weekly, presented by America's First Federal Credit Union. We're going to take you now to Moody, Alabama, home of the Blue Devils, and they have for many years now been one of the top high school wrestling programs in the state of Alabama. Coach Matthew Reese joins us at this time, and one of the top wrestlers, really not only in the state right now, but in state history. Senior wrestler Corey Lynden joins us at this time. Men, glad to have you with us on the AHSAA Weekly.
It's good to be here with you guys.
Coach Reese, let's begin with you. Moody, as we said, one of the top programs year in and year out for many years running. Just tell us about the program and what wrestling means there at Moody High School and in the Moody community.
So it hasn't always been that way. I remember when Moody won its first state championship in wrestling. Had its first champion, and it's just kind of built from there with great groups of guys that just come in, work hard, try to get 1% better every day, and it's just led us to this point of being known as a great wrestling school.
Well, one of the guys that has been a big key to that is the guy sitting right next to you, Corey Lynden. He's a senior. Last year, undefeated. This year, undefeated. As a matter of fact, I believe he's won 203 consecutive matches. Just incredible. I'll start with you, Coach, before we turn it over to Corey. Tell us about this young man.
Corey's the best. He really is. Just day in, day out, comes in, shows up, ready to work, ready to get better. You know, being a younger coach, I've leaned on him a little bit, just diving into his depth of wrestling and what can we do as a program to get better, and really utilizing him as an asset, not just him as just a wrestler.
Corey, let's ask you what the secret is. Last year, 126 pounds, 44-0. You moved up to 138 this year, 52-0 so far. What is the secret to all of this great success?
It's just dedication, going in every day, wanting to get 1% better. A lot of people get to the top and they just think that they're going to sit there, but that's just not how it works in the sport. So going in every day and finding a way to become better.
Corey, I think we have to go back about 4 years, maybe to 8th grade, something like that, the last time you lost a match. Do you even remember that last loss?
Man, I remember it like it was yesterday. lost to a tough kid. I actually lost that kid twice and then ended up beating him at state. And then from there, it's just, I never wanted to feel like that in Alabama again, so.
Corey, you recently moved past legendary Mike Sutton, a wrestler over at Weaver High School in Calhoun County, as you now move into second place, the second longest win streak in AHSAA history. When you start looking at these all-time records and being at the top of the record book, what does that mean to you personally? Do you ever sit and, I know you're busy in the wrestling season, but you ever sit and think about some of these records that will stand for a long time that you're setting?
I mean, yeah, it's definitely cool. The records are nice, but, you know, these aren't my goals. My goals are to become the best ever. I want to go to college and set records in college, and then after college, go to the Olympics, stuff like that. So the records in high school are nice, and I'm glad I'm setting them, and I'm glad I can be this kind of like on this pedestal for younger wrestlers to look up to. But, you know, I'm ready to get to the next level and do the same thing there.
Coach Reese, what can you tell us about this young man? Give us some details. What sets him apart? Obviously, when someone has won 203 consecutive matches, that's astounding. You have to go back to 8th grade, as we said, to see the last time that he lost a match. What are the qualities? What are some of the things that you see in him that maybe differentiate, make him or separate him from other high school wrestlers?
The big one, I think, is just his drive. He shows up, works harder than any kid we have in our program, you know, tries to get better, even though, you know, he's got people saying, oh, you're the best, you're the best. He doesn't listen to any of that, just shows up, keeps working, keeps getting better, just to obtain those goals he's talking about of moving on past Alabama high school.
Coach and Corey, I'll ask you both this question. Obviously, you can win this weekend. You'll be at 206. You've got this long win streak going. Anytime there's a winning streak, there seems to be sometimes a little pressure, maybe not. Do you feel that pressure of keeping the streak going, or tell us about that, both of you guys?
There's always pressure, but I've gotten to a point in my career where pressure is a privilege. You know what I mean? This past weekend at sectionals, you know, I have the whole stadium going against me. They all want to see me lose because I've been at the top for so long. So, I mean, yeah, there's pressure, but it's nothing new. It's a privilege, so I'm going to go out there and do what I do. Coach,
what about the pressure from a coaching standpoint?
I think Corey's got a great mindset to deal with it. You know, there's definitely pressure there, but, you know, without pressure, we don't have diamonds. So, you know, he takes the pressure, turns it into a positive, and uses that for motivation every day, coming in and getting better.
Corey, former Alabama head football coach Gene Stallings, one of his favorite sayings was, the fun is in the winning. You've been doing a lot of winning, so I imagine this has been a lot of fun. I know it's a lot of hard work, but it's a lot of fun as well. Did you ever imagine that something like this would happen going back? How did you get into wrestling? Did you think it would be this fun when you first started?
Man, I remember my first practice. I got into wrestling in about 5th grade. My brother started wrestling, and I was like, yeah, that looks fun. So I started doing it. You know, when you start wrestling, it's not just something you can go into and be good at. So I had my fair share of like bumps in the road. So it's definitely now getting the fruits of my labor is nice. Yeah, I mean, winning, I'm one of those competitive people I know. So I don't like losing anything. So being able to go out there and do what I do and win that, it's definitely fun.
Men, thank you so much for your time. I know it's a busy week. The 66th State Wrestling Championships coming up this weekend. Best wishes to both of you and the entire Moody team. Thank you for joining us this week here on the AHSAA Weekly.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Head coach of the Moody Blue Devil Wrestling Team, Coach Matthew Reese, and one of the top wrestlers in state history, Corey Lynden, joining us this week on the AHSAA Weekly. Back in just a moment.
The perfect checking account doesn't exist. Not at a bank, that is. So why do you keep looking there? At AmFirst, you can get no minimum balance or monthly fees, an instant issue debit card, and free checks with unlimited check writing. But who doesn't want more? Like a rewards program you'll actually use, and convenient digital tools that make it easy to manage your account from anywhere. Now you could try and find that at a bank, or you could save yourself the trouble by checking with us.
What's your favorite high school sports memory? A late inning rally? A game-winning shot? A photo finish? Maybe it's a pep rally or a pregame ritual. Maybe it's the euphoria of a late-night bus ride home after a hard-fought win. Maybe it's having pizza with teammates after the game. Now, imagine if it never happened at all. School sports need your help. With budgets getting tighter, it's more than the games that are on the line. It's all the traditions, the community pride, the culture of your hometown high school. Plus, all those memories that are on the line, too. What can you do? It's simple. Buy a ticket when you can. Go to a game. Take the whole family. Let's do everything we can to keep those cherished school sports memories alive.
This message presented by the Alabama High School Athletic Association and the Alabama High School Athletic Directors and Coaches Association.
We are back on the AHSAA Weekly, presented by America's First Federal Credit Union. One of the top girls basketball teams in the state is in Lynden, Alabama. In Class 1A, the Lynden Lady Patriots, they have a fantastic team again this year after going to the state semifinals last year. We're joined by the head coach at Lynden High School, Coach Cordarren Wilson. Coach, glad to have you with us this week on the AHSAA Weekly.
Glad to be with you.
Coach, semifinals last year, had a great season. Tell us about last year's team and how that kind of carried over to this year.
What the experience, having about 4 starters return that know what it takes to get there, and the understanding and the grind and the grit right now. So everybody locked into the program, locked into the adjusting, the change, locked into that, we have to play defense, we have to rebound and defend for 32 minutes. So just that experience alone and just getting on that big stage, just so hard to get to, really has got our, players that return locked in, and upcoming players that join the team this year, got them locked into knowing what it takes to get back to their destination.
Coach, tell us about this year's team and tell us about the strengths and maybe weaknesses of this year's team.
This year's team is adjusting right now. This year we're playing a little fast pace than we played last year. So we're turning it over. But we're doing a great job of just trying to adjust, playing a faster paced game, running the floor. We're more of a 4-out, 1-in team this year than it was compared to last year. My strength is Tamaya. Tamaya Thurman is our strength, and Elijah Barnes. Elijah Barnes, 4-year point guard, got great experience. She averaging 17, 18 a game, along with Tamaya, who's putting up 24 to 26 a game. So when you have a big, you have a post, and 1A, it's kind of said itself for scoring ability. Our other strength is we got pretty decent shooters around them. Amanda Makaya and Jamaica Miller. They do a great job of just, taking the double team out to Maya, hitting the outside shots. And the very key to us is AHSAA Sanders. She does a great job of locking the best offensive player up on the other team. She plays great defense. She get in and get her 8 to 10 points a game when she can. So I think the strength of our team now is everybody being able to score, everybody being comfortable with the ball, and everybody knowing their role. So we have rebounders, Destiny and Jazz do a great job of locking on the board. So we got a piece of the puzzle, and everybody got their piece that they got to bring to the puzzle for us to be successful.
Coach, talking more about Tamaya Thurman, she is, I think, one of the people around the state that folks may not have heard of, but she is a phenomenal player. I want to make sure I have this right. She is 6'6" and just a junior. Is that correct?
She's 6'4.5". She's 6'4.5", and she's a junior. Yes, sir.
All right, I had her way too high there, but she's one of the top centers. Yeah. She's one of the top centers not only in the state of Alabama, she's one of the top centers in the country. Just tell us about her development. Going from a 10th grader last year, she had a triple-double in the state semifinal game. And just her improvement. A lot of players show rapid improvement between that 10th grade and junior year. Tell us about the improvement she's made from last year to this year.
Well, her off-season training and conditioning took on most of it. She took it well into her weight when she dropped 15 pounds. So she's 215 pounds now. That has a lot to do with it because she can play more minutes. She can get up and down the floor a little faster, especially at the pace that I like to play. And like I said, her off-season conditioning training. She stayed in the gym. We sat down, worked on her short-term goals, long-term goals, as far as her weakness and strength. And she's just using both hands. Soft touch around the rim. She's ripping at the free throw line. She's stepping out, shooting a mid-range jumper. taking bigs off the dribble when she's not getting double teamed. So, I mean, her game is elevating, and I'm excited about it. Like I said, she's growing into that role of becoming what we need her to become. And, I'm just looking for her to grow and grow until she gets to that next level.
Coach, how did the experience last year playing in that big stage in the state finals and that experience from last year, one, I guess, how did that experience help this year's team? And then two, I would imagine this is a hungry basketball team to try to get back there again.
Yes, sir. The experience, to be honest, it's a lot of teams that never get to that big stage. So just being there, even though it was a loss, just getting the feeling of being on the big stage, knowing what it takes to get there, it was good for our program. Also, this year, the mindset, everything starts with the mindset of knowing what it takes, knowing what we got to do, knowing what we didn't do and we need to do to get back there and even go further. So our goal this year is to end up in the state championship game.
Of course, before we get to the state finals, you got the Southwest Regional coming up in Montgomery. Your team will be there. Tell us about the upcoming game at the Southwest Regional in Montgomery.
Yeah, we play against McIntosh, well-known school. We always run across, good coach with great experience, and they have a pretty good program. So we're looking forward for the matchup against them. Like I said, we respect all our opponents. We go in with this mindset, we respect all but fear none. And we just going to do what the Lady Patriots do. We're going to defend for 32 minutes to get up and down the floor. And that's our goal. That's our motto.
Coach, let's talk about maybe one thing that your team's going to have to do to win a state championship. Maybe the difference from last year to this year, the one big improvement your team needs to make to bring home a blue map to Lynden.
Limit turnovers. That's what every game. Less turnover we have, the more successful we're going to be. We limit our turnovers and make free throws. We're going to be very, very successful. We're going to be very, very hard to beat.
Coach, thank you so much for the time. Best wishes to you and your team in the Southwest Regional coming up this week. Looking forward to big things out of the Lynden Patriots. Thank you for spending time with us here on the AHSAA Weekly.
All right, thank you all for having me.
Coach Cordarren Wilson of Lynden High School. The Lady Patriots headed to the Southwest Regional in Montgomery on the road to Birmingham and the state finals. More of the AHSAA Weekly in just a moment.
Every bank has their own app, but it's just that, theirs. At AmFirst, our app was made for you, so you can personalize your dashboard, pay your bills, and redeem points for rewards you'll love. Get the app made for you at AmFirst.
We are back on the AHSAA Weekly. We're going to journey up to the shores of Lake Guntersville in Marshall County, speaking with the soccer coach at Guntersville High School, Coach Mike Jones this week. Coach, glad to have you with us here on the AHSAA Weekly.
Privilege and honor to be here. Thank you very much.
Well, we don't think of it already being spring sports time because we're still sitting here in the middle of February and a lot of basketball and things going on. But, hey, spring sports are cranked up. You've already played, as I understand. You told me earlier off camera, you've already played 4 soccer games. Is that right? So you're real underway and going right now.
Oh, yeah. They say we're a spring sport. We'll be starting February, which sometimes can be brutally cold. And we did have 2 winter storms come through already this season, so we did miss some games. But we played in the Southern Shootout down in Foley this weekend, got 3 games in there. That was very nice.
Coach, last year your girls team going to the Final Four in the AHSAA and the 4A, 5A division. Tell us about last year and that great successful team you had at Guntersville in 2021.
Yeah, well, thank you. We in 2020, we had the best team I've ever had. Got COVID out. Everybody's got that horrible story to go through as well, as you well know. 2021, we brought back 1 senior. So I was very proud. And this senior was just an outstanding young lady, just carried us all the way through. And we made it all the way to the Final Four with her, mainly carrying the load. Of course, we had a lot of young, good experienced players. So it was very exciting. We've been to the Final Four like 14 out of the last 17 years. 3 state championships, 2 runner-ups. So our goal every year is to get back to the Final Four. So we got that same expectation this year.
Through 4 games, I know it's early, but you've probably got a pretty good feel for this team. Tell us about the 2022 Guntersville soccer team.
Okay, so in Foley, I started 7 graders, 3 7th graders across the back line, and that you can't say much more than that. I've got one starting senior, and then I got a really good junior group that's going to carry us a long ways this year. A really good keeper. So, when you can play defense, you got a good keeper, you can be in a lot of games, and that's what we'll depend on this year.
Coach, I know going back through the years, soccer is a relatively new sport here in Alabama. It's not that old, but going back to when you and I were in high school, I don't think that soccer existed back then. Tell us about the transformation, if you will, of soccer, and particularly at Guntersville High School. You talked about the great success that you've had over the last 15 or 20 years or so. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so it's not no brain rocket science that we're some type of genius coaches that know how to strategize and do all of the stuff we need to do. I learned that several years ago when I had 3 daughters that the secret to success is kids joining and playing club soccer at a young age. If I just wait till I get my players and when I get to high school, then we're not going to the Final Four, So I start fall club teams for 10-year-olds and 8-year-olds, and I try to lead them all the way up until they get into the 7th grade. And then a lot of times the 7th graders are my best players. So I try to keep a string going about every 2 or 3 years of young kids coming through the program, and I coach them myself in the fall. And then I have to let them go into 7th grade and they join the team. And I tell you, for anybody that's starting programs, that's the way to do it. You got to win parents and you got to win kids over at a young age. Because soccer, as you said, is not a very popular sport. We compete against basketball and softball, and that's been the standard for years in the state of Alabama. So to win over the better athletes, you got to do it at a young age. You're not going to win them over later.
Coach Jones, how did you get started in soccer?
Yeah, like I was saying, I had 3 daughters. I had one son football stuff, coaching Pee Wee football. Then I had 3 daughters in a row, and some way or another we got going soccer, and I just hadn't been able to give it up. We went to Huntsville playing club soccer with all 3 of them. I learned from some really good coaches over there what to do. But like I say, the main thing is just getting these kids. I'm not no genius by no means whatsoever about soccer, but I have figured out that you got to win these players over at a young age and get them started.
Coach Jones, a guy that's been on this program many times, former director of officiating for the Alabama High School Athletic Association, Mark Jones. He's from Guntersville, and he's also your brother. Now, sometimes coaches and officials don't always see eye to eye. Tell us about that coach-official and that brother relationship you have with your brother, Mark Jones.
Yeah, so now Mark's a different character when you go talking about officials. He is serious about it, and that's what's led to all of his success. When we were growing up as kids, he would not want to play in our neighborhood games. He would want to referee our neighborhood game. And I remember vividly on occasions, he'd frustrate me so bad, I'd go in and say, "Daddy, do I have to do what Mark says?" And he would say, "Well, he's the referee." And then I'd say, "Yes." And he'd say, "Well, you got to do what he says." Over and over that scenario played out. He would umpire my baseball games when I would be pitching, and I would be like, "Oh my gosh, Mark, you give me a break, But Mark is serious. Hut Thomas in your Hall of Fame probably as well down there at Jacksonville. Played at Jacksonville probably in the 50s or 40s or whenever. Grew up right beside us, and Hut Thomas was one of the best known officials in the state as well. And Mark just noticed him in his uniform outside, and that's all he wanted to do, and he did.
All that officiating paid off for Mark. He's going into this year's class of the Alabama High School Sports Hall of Fame. Coach Jones, thank you so much for joining us. Best wishes to you and your soccer program there at Guntersville the rest of 22. Thank you for joining us here on the AHSAA Weekly.
Thank you.
Mike Jones, head soccer coach at Guntersville High School here on the AHSAA Weekly. Back in just a moment.
Looking for a perfect checking account? Don't waste your time. No minimum balance, no monthly fees, and a convenient app. Now you could try and find that at a bank, or you could save yourself the trouble by checking with us.
And we're wrapping up this week's edition of the AHSAA Weekly, presented by America's First Federal Credit Union, with David Holtzford's highlights. David Holtzford of the Alabama High School Athletic Association putting together highlights from sports all across the state, mainly wrestling this week. The North and South sectionals taking place this weekend in Montgomery and Birmingham. Some of the faster pins of the weekend. Here we see Clay Johnston from Vestavia Hills getting the quick pin in the second round. Johnston would go on to finish third in the weight class, qualifying for state this week. Lynden McClendon with a 9-second pin in the second round against Ramsey High School. Then in the 113 weight class, Nathan Cox from Madison County pinning his opponent in 12 seconds. Cox would finish fourth place and qualify for the state tournament coming up this week. A final quick pin for you in the South. W.S. Neal's Zach Courier, wrestling at 152, goes low and rolls his opponent over, getting the pin. Courier would ultimately fall in the second consolation round. Thompson High School finishing first in the sectionals. Here we see a quick pin from Kiala Vines in the championship match at 113, wrestling Cameron Stifler. Vines would get the pin and the championship win in just 35 seconds. James Latana, brother of Virginia Tech standout and former Thompson State champion Sam Latana, wrestling in the 145 championship match. Latana defeating Kyle Fontenot in the second period to take the championship and help Thompson win the 7A South Sectional Championship. In the North action, we have the Gardendale Rockets led by the 4 Poe brothers. DeMarcus wrestling at 106. He would finish third in the North. Deshaun at 132. He would finish first. Isaiah at 138. He would go into the championship match undefeated on the season and fall to Corey Land of Moody. And then Melton at 160, finishing first. All great wrestlers with bright futures, contributing to a runner-up finish in 5A, 6A for Gardendale, finishing behind first place Mortimer Jordan. The match of the weekend was, however, Corey Land versus Isaiah Poe. Both wrestlers coming to the match undefeated on the season. This was probably one of the few matches for both wrestlers that went the distance. Corey Land, who won a cadet world silver medal over the summer, going the distance, winning the match 14-7. Hopefully these two face off in the finals for a state championship that will be fun to watch for sure. And a special highlight this week in the sport of basketball. Area playoffs happening last week at Hazel Green. Cameron Fowler from Columbia and Huntsville in the final seconds, making the half-court heave against Madison Academy to send Columbia to the sub-regional round. Hazel Green would go on to win the area tournament 81-36. Columbia will face Scottsboro on Tuesday for the chance to advance to the regionals. Thanks to David Holtzford and all the folks at the Alabama High School Athletic Association for putting together these highlights. And that's going to wrap up this week's edition of the AHSAA Weekly, presented by America's First Federal Credit Union. We'll see you back here next week.